Welcome to the Heroic Investing Show. As first responders, we risk our lives every day. Our financial security is under attack. Our pensions are in a state of emergency. A single on-duty incident can alter or erase our earning potential instantly and forever. We are the heroes of society. We are self-reliant and we need to take care of our own financial future. The Heroic Investing Show is our toolkit of business and investing tactics on our mission to financial freedom.
Hello and welcome to episode 130 of the Heroic Investing Show. This is a podcast for first responders, active duty members of the military, veterans, retired first responders, and really it's for anyone who's looking to improve their financial future and gain some freedom with their time. We teach America's heroes. We teach all interested entrepreneurs, investors, people looking to leave the W-2 world how to build passive income, build their startup business, and safely grow wealth through real estate and other alternative investments. And again, my definition of alternative investments is anything not coming from Wall Street, not some packaged commodity that's based on markets, mutual funds, things like that. This rather is a hard asset or participating as a passive investor in one of those assets. But I would also include being a private money lender, being a note buyer, anything where you are taking direct control of your dollars, not handing it to a money manager to make the decisions that they will. So that's our focus, help people figure that out. And I've mentioned numerous times, and clearly Jason and I are aligned in this perspective, that starting out with direct control of your assets of 1 to 4 family properties, getting locked in tremendous, only in America, government-backed 30-year fixed interest rate loans is a tremendous asset. Get those locked in while you still have a W-2. It's really, really important to developing long-term permanent wealth when you're starting from the position we're starting from. Listen, I have some clients that come to me with a few $1 million, and those individuals probably don't want to start trying to rack up a few 1 to 4 family homes. They're going to start something bigger. Maybe they buy a multifamily. Maybe they just participate passively. So everyone is different, but I think when I'm talking to active duty, military, first responders, and even most veterans, we're talking about somebody who is very solidly in the upper middle class and is looking to branch out a little bit, to diversify, to figure out, is there some way to get dependable, better long-term returns by having a little bit more direct control? I'm a huge fan, and I would love to teach everyone out there listening to this how to go down that path. So as you know, 130 is a 10th episode. And so today on this show, as Jason does with his show, we go off topic and we do something of general life interest. And you're really going to love this one. I hope you do. This guy is someone that I've followed for many years. He is certainly someone that you will recognize. And he's talking about a subject that to me is just absolutely fascinating. So the guest that Jason talks with today is Joe Vitale. And you know Joe probably from The Law of Attraction, a couple of money books that he has put out, and some videos. But his topic here today is that you simply need to think like an entrepreneur. So Jason kind of takes him on a little bit in this one. They're joking back and forth, or Jason is posing the argument that, listen, you can't just think up a beautiful, wonderful life and it just appears in front of you. And, the law of attraction is not saying that, but many people have taken that concept to the extreme. I've studied this concept. I think it's amazing. What really to me is most amazing is the capability of the human brain, and frankly, the percentage that we are not using, which is a majority of that brain. That's my belief, at least. I do believe that you can manifest things to happen, but I don't think that you turn energy into matter right in front of you. So, you're thinking about wanting the new couch and the doorbell dings and it's sitting on the front steps. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you can have your tremendously powerful mind working subconsciously in the background, effectively multitasking, not what we do in the conscious world of ineffectively trying to multitask, but it's back in the background helping guide you along subconsciously, causing you to make choices that you're not really even thinking about, that put you in the right place. You show up at the right event, the right party. You show up work a little bit early on one day when it was the right day to make that happen. You make a wrong turn and you go down the street and you find that property that was the one you were looking for. So, a lot of those things I don't think are by chance. I believe it is a higher power, and I also believe that it is your subconscious working in the background. Probably the most simple example of this is a concept, and maybe you don't know it by this name, but the Baader-Meinhof Syndrome. And it's probably more well known by what you've experienced in your own life. There's a more recent title for it, which is called frequency illusion. A Stanford linguistics professor just a few years ago came up with frequency illusion to retitle, I guess, Baader-Meinhof. And Baader-Meinhof itself is hilarious in how this came up. So this Baader-Meinhof is a historic German urban guerrilla group. Has absolutely nothing to do with this. They weren't successful because they understood this concept. Rather, in 1995, there was a thread on the St. Paul Pioneer Press talking about this concept and that it didn't have a name. And so someone claimed naming rights somehow, and they had just gone through this experience of having heard something and then it coming up again and again and again. So here's my example. Let me take a little off-road. So I'm a car guy, right? So it's easiest for me to explain this phenomenon using cars. So in 2000, I think it was 15, when the new Corvette Stingray came out, to me, that was somebody at General Motors, who I think is a pretty bland company now, but someone there woke up and recognized that they could paint like Rembrandt, and they made an amazing car. That car just speaks to me. It has for the last 3 years since I've seen them. But I saw a beautiful, bright yellow one. First one I ever saw when I was driving home from my commutes from Washington, D.C. back up to New Jersey. And for the next month, I saw nothing but that car. I swear to you, there were more of them than Honda Accords. And so I think you've probably thought, if you decided you wanted a red Mustang when you were young, right? And then you just saw nothing but those red Mustangs around everywhere, right? My most recent car is I've started to like the Acura NSX, not the new one, but the classic, the mid-90s to the mid-2000s. And there's a blue one that's around 2002 or so. They changed it so they don't have those what I call frog headlights, or those pop-up headlights from the 90s. And this 2002 one was a special color, and it's beautiful. And I know how many of them there physically were made, but I swear I've seen every one of them on the road in the last year or two. So that's what I'm talking about, is that your mind can work subconsciously. It pays attention to what interests you in the conscious world. And you have thoughts like, gosh, I really wish I could see more of those beautiful blue Acuras. Maybe I'll see one that has a for sale sign in the window. And so it just says, okay, well, that's what you want, then let's go get it. And so in the background, while you're working on other things consciously, it does its thing. And I personally believe that that's the power of meditation. That's the power of journaling. You are putting down on paper, you are teaching your subconscious, who's, hanging out there and paying attention, taking notes, what's important to you. And so positive words of affirmation, journaling, meditating, all these things are training your subconscious of what you want, and it goes off and does it while you're still trying to, survive and navigate through the conscious world that we have to go through. And then, also, what about those 8 to 10 hours that you're sleeping, right? You're not always in deep sleep. Sometimes you're in fairly conscious sleeping or fairly alert sleeping, and your mind is working during that period of time. It is figuring these things out. So please don't underestimate the power of exercises, teaching yourself, actually thinking, actually writing down what you want. I think it's a powerful, powerful thing. So I go a little bit on the other side from Jason. I don't think it's all kind of hogwash. He didn't really say that either, but he does think that people give themselves a break. And I agree with that they say, well, I thought about it and it didn't appear on my doorstep, so I guess it's just not real, right? You have to take action, right? And no one that I know of who is credible has ever said, just, give it all up to your creator and he'll make it all happen for you. No, you have to work. You have to live the life. and things will happen for you, right? Be, do, have, as my friend and mentor Patrick Donahoe talks about all the time. And he didn't invent this, but be the person, do the things, and then you will have what you wanted, right? So, okay. So Baader-Meinhof, go study it. It's crazy. I just love the title, the name. I guess I never closed that part out. So this individual heard of this crazy German urban guerrilla group out of the blue a couple of times while they were trying to name this. And so, in my opinion, inappropriately decided to name it that, because that to him was an example of this scenario going on. Maybe that'll help you remember the name. I'm not sure. But you can always fall back to simply calling it frequency illusion. So I hope you do enjoy this really good talk. Off topic today with one of America's greats, Joe Vitale.
It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Joe Vitale to the show. I'm sure you've heard his name because he has way too many best-selling books to mention here. I'll let him share some of the titles with you. But, a couple are The Attractor Factor, Life's Missing Instruction Manual, The Key Faith, Attract Money Now, and just a whole bunch. I think he's got like 50 books. It's crazy, okay? But Joe has been featured in several movies, including the blockbuster The Secret. We've all heard of The Secret, of course. He's been on Larry King Live, Donnie Deutsch's The Big Idea, CNN, CNBC, CBS, ABC, Fox News, Fox and Friends, and Extra TV. And he's been featured in the New York Times and Newsweek. And it's just great to have him here today. We're going to, his work is pretty broad, so he's got a lot of stuff. But we're going to make this the focus of our talk today, although we'll probably wander around a little bit. We're going to talk about finances. We're going to talk about money and using the law of attraction and the other techniques that Joe teaches as we dive into mostly the realm of money and financial success. Joe, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this. What an honor and what a treat. Thank you, Jason.
It's great to have you here. So tell us what you're kind of mostly working on lately. Like I said in the intro, your bio is just too big to share. What's your latest book, for example?
Well, I have two or three that are considered the latest. The most recent is a book called The Secret Prayer, and it's a 3-step formula for attracting miracles in your life. That's already shot up the bestseller list, so I'm very proud of The Secret Prayer. But I also released Hypnotic Marketing, which is my definitive guide to the 4-step process that I created to help people market their products or services primarily online. And that's been a best-selling ebook for many, almost 2 decades. But it's now out there in paperback on Amazon. And I also released the 3rd volume of the Miracles Manual. And that's a collection of questions and answers that people ask me in my Miracles coaching program. And so that's also out there. I'm always, blowing and going and creating new products and new books. And I'm also a musician now. I have 15 albums out. Can you believe it?
Wow. That's amazing. And you have another guy in your band who happens to have your exact same name?
And in the music business, he is legendary. The other Joe Vitale is a drummer. He's played for every rock and roll band since the 1970s, primarily with Joe Walsh. But every other rocker you can name, he's been with it. And he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I am so honored, so grateful, so inspired to say he is my friend and he is my drummer on all of my singer-songwriter albums.
That's fantastic. Joe Vitale and Joe Vitale.
Yes, stand back, world.
What a crazy coincidence. That's awesome. Well, Joe, dive into the subject of money and why is this a challenge for people? One of the things I've been saying lately on my shows is just, I remember when I was in Peru last year with one of my mastermind groups and, we checked into one of the hotels. We were just in this hotel for one night and I just couldn't believe how nice this hotel was. And, some of the opportunities to just travel around the world and do things and see things and experience things, I just say to people, just take care of this money thing. You got to just take care of it. Get it out of the way so it's off your list, if you will, so that you've got the financial resources to do things to, as you talk about, you're sculpting your own David, right? That's our job in life, is to create ourselves. And, the financial resources are part of that. They're important, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you. And I do want to enjoy life and what's out there for us to have and share and make a difference in other people's lives as well as my own. Having been homeless at one point and having been in poverty for a very long time, I much prefer the lifestyle of the rich and famous. And I much prefer having choice. But here's what it comes down to. And I practice more of a tough love approach to life, and we don't have all that much time together. So I just tell people, look, there's only two reasons why you don't allow money into your life and you're not creating wealth, because the information is out there, the how-to is out there. There's plenty of people that are offering you the means to do this and the opportunities to capitalize on this. But the two things going on is, one is we have a very bad attitude towards money. That's the first thing. And the second one is we have a bad attitude towards ourselves, meaning that our self-image, our self-worth is pretty much low for every single person. They really have a difficulty in allowing good to come into their lives. Now, they may argue with that, but where I come from is we have to look at the unconscious beliefs that are operating in people. For example, I can state a line, and everybody is going to finish it on their own. Money is the root of all, and everybody just said evil. So stop and think about this. If you're trying to attract money, you're trying to create wealth, you're trying to do all the right things, and you have all these high intentions for your wealth, but you think it's bad for you, you are subconsciously going to sabotage your own efforts. So the first thing we have to do is get clean with money. We have to realize money in and of itself is neutral. We're the ones projecting all the meaning onto it, all the symbolism onto it, all the emotion onto it. And we have to understand that those statements like money is the root of all evil are actually from a longer statement, which is a biblical phrase, which means it's pretty much anchored in our unconscious, that the love of money is the root of all evil. And I've dug into this even deeper and wrote a whole book on it called Attract Money Now, where I blow the whistle and say, look, all the wealthy people I know aren't in love with money. They're in love with freedom. They're in love with choice. They're passionate about their lives, and they use money to achieve their ends. When you realize that money in and of itself is as neutral as can be, and that you can leverage it to do good in the world, and you can be a steward for it, to direct it to your family, to friends, to causes you believe in, then you're free to have all the other techniques out there on creating wealth work for you. But that's the first hurdle for most people, and some people just hearing this are going to go ahead and relax and allow money into their lives when they realize money's good, money's wonderful, money's useful. That's the first thing to handle, Jason.
Okay, so you were in The Secret. Of course, The Secret has been incredibly successful. And the criticism of The Secret, I'm sure there are others, but one of them is that you can't just sit around and think and, employ the law of attraction and have everything magically beat a path to your door, right? You got to do something. Or, what would you say? I'm sure you've heard these criticisms over the years. I mean, the rest is great, but I'm talking about being a little critical of it.
Absolutely. Jason, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. In fact, I'm one of the critics. I'm one of the critics who say The Secret is a wonderful movie, but it's an introduction to an idea. It's not the graduate course. All it did was teach you a little bit about how the mind works, and what you tend to focus on is what you tend to attract in your life. It's a basic law of attraction. But it didn't talk enough about action. I happen to be in the movie talking about taking action, and interesting enough, a lot of people fog out during that segment. And when they watch the whole movie, they end up saying things like, well, that was a feel-good movie, and all you have to do is sit and meditate and visualize and answer the door or answer the phone, and there's what you were desiring. It might work like that, but in my experience, the only way that I have 50 books written and 15 albums done and all kind of courses and DVDs and everything else is I am a massive take-action guy. I am definitely using the law of attraction. I definitely set intentions, visualize what I want, feel it coming into my life, but I also do something about it. That's the missing ingredient, the missing link with all the people who are saying, oh, I tried the law of attraction and it didn't work. I tried to attract money and it didn't work. That's all bull. You didn't do all that you needed to do. You didn't take what I call inspired action. You didn't follow up on whatever ideas were coming to you or opportunities that were coming to you. The rest of the picture does include taking action as part of the formula. And as you take action, you get feedback. As you get the feedback, you take other action. Throughout it all, as a kind of an umbrella umbrella is your intention on what you want, whether it's creating wealth or anything else, attracting the romance, perfect job, house, car, spirituality, whatever you want. That's all there, but you can't just sit. Sitting, meditating, visualizing is an action. It's not all the actions, and it's not all the actions that'll take you where you want to go. So we have to get off our butt. We have to do something.
And, that seems to be, and I'm going to just say it, one of the things that goes on in sort of the new age community, right, is you've got people kind of sitting around meditating and they're just not taking action, right? So
it's a form of self-sabotage.
Yeah, there's a blend of these, right? There's a balance. Stephen Covey, in his very well-known books, as he talked about the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talked about the P and PC balance. You've got production and production capacity. So maybe the law of attraction in the thoughts and the meditating about it, that's the production capacity. But the production part is going out and doing something. You've got the right mindset. That's great. So when the money comes, you won't self-sabotage it. That's one of the things the law of attraction will do, right? Is help us manage and deal with the success. Maybe is that a right angle on it, or what would your thoughts be about that?
Well, I come from the position that we live in a belief-driven universe, and that everything we're getting in our lives is due to our beliefs, but not our conscious beliefs. That's another problem with the law of attraction. When people watch the movie The Secret or just read a little bit superficially around the law of attraction, they don't realize that the law of attraction is working on your unconscious, your subconscious beliefs, not your conscious ones. That's why you can sit there and go, oh, I'm attracting money today. I'm attracting perfect romance today. I feel great. That's all wonderful. But unconsciously, if you think money's bad or evil, or you think you don't deserve the perfect relationship, or you don't deserve wealth, you will sabotage yourself and you won't even know it. You'll blame other people. You'll blame the economy. You'll blame the author, the movie, the teachers. You'll blame the terrorists, the weather. You'll come up with something. We want to wake up is what we need to do, Jason. We need to wake up to how our mind works. The law of attraction is pointing in the right direction in the sense that it's giving us some power that most people didn't realize they had. Most people walk through life as a victim, and they just kind of react to circumstances and bounce around from one thing to another, not realizing they can take a breath, they can relax, and they can set an intention to attract wealth. Once they set that intention to attract wealth, now they have to be aware of what comes up in their mind. Do they feel like there's any counter beliefs, any counter intentions along the lines of, oh, this is going to work for everybody else, but it's not going to work for me? Those are beliefs that we want to analyze, we want to dismiss, we want to erase, we want to get them out of our head. The more we can do that, the easier it is to take action. Too many people aren't taking action, not so much because they believe that a miracle is going to come to their door, or come to their phone, or come in the mail, but because they believe that they don't have to do anymore, and they've convinced themselves of that, and it's not true. That's a form of self-sabotage. We want to be aware of our mindset, our programming, so we can have, do, and be whatever we want.
Very good points. Very good points. So as we talk about this stuff, are there any mechanics, any, real specifics you want to share as to how we do this? Like exactly what does somebody listening to this do tonight when they go to bed, tomorrow morning when they wake up?
Yeah, great question. Well, the very first thing, it's going to sound self-serving, but I'm giving this away. I wrote a book called Attract Money Now. It's free. All your listeners can have it. Just go to www.attractmoneynow.com and get it. Now, I can't read it for you and I can't implement it for you, but there's 7 steps in there that I have refined, polished, and tested over the last couple decades. They took me out of homelessness, they took me out of poverty, and they shot me into fame and fortune. Anybody who applies these 7 steps is going to get out of the rut. They're going to wake up. So the very first thing to know is that there's more resources. Here's one. Go get Attract Money Now. Now, in those 7 steps, the very first one talks about your mindset. And we've already talked a little bit about that, but I talk at length in there about how you feel about money. And it's really important to befriend money, to realize that if you care about yourself, your family, your friends, if there's causes or movements or organizations you'd really like to support, you can do it when you're wealthy. So you want to be clean with money.
Let me ask you a question before you move on, Joe. Because I think some people might be listening, including yours truly. Now, I've achieved a really, I think, a good level of financial success. But of course, there's more I want to do. Like hopefully everybody, and I can't imagine that I'm not wanting money. Is there something in me where, maybe a deal doesn't go right or something where I'm actually repelling money? Like, I think people listening to this might be saying, of course I want money. You kidding me, Joe? Come on.
Yes. Well, here's the way to find out if you're clean with money. Do you have it? Do you have it at the level that you want it? Because if you don't have it at the level that you want it, you most likely have some beliefs about deservingness and about money itself. So we want to stop and just get really blunt and look in the mirror and ask ourselves, do I have the level of wealth that I've been longing for in my life? For most people, they're going to say absolutely not. They're going to say, no, I've got, much like you just said, you're already doing really well, but you've got bigger dreams that you want to go for. So we want to look deeper. We want to really look in a ruthless way. And I'm using the word ruthless intentionally because we don't want to be just honest with ourselves. We have to be ruthlessly honest with ourselves and ask ourselves, what might I believe that would keep more wealth coming from me? And then whatever comes up for you, accept it. You can even write it down. There's going to be different answers like, all the money's taken. There isn't enough to go around. We're in a bad economy. We're in a recession, depression, economic slump. All of that might come up. And we've got to look at those answers because even that one is not true. We've got to realize what's the difference between a fact and a belief. If a fact is something that we can all agree on and we can all measure and science can go and say, yep, it's exactly 12 inches long or it's exactly $5,000 or it's measurable in some countable way, it's probably a fact. But if it's something like, well, it's due to the economy, that's a belief. We can't prove it. We can't all agree on it. And we can find exceptions to it. We can look around and we can find young teenagers that are becoming multimillionaires by coming up with a wild idea, implementing it, and it happens to be the right time, the right place, and it catches fire, and they have more money than they know what to do with. So there's exceptions to that idea that it's due to the economy or due to the president or due to the political system. All of those are beliefs. So whenever we look in the mirror and we say, why don't I have the level of wealth that I would love to have right now? Whatever comes up, we want to pay attention to, whatever comes up in our mind, and honor it, write it down, and then look at it. Is it a fact or is it a belief? The fact is there are trillions, not millions or billions, trillions of dollars circulating right now. And I said circulating. I don't mean that they're stuffed in people's mattresses or locked in a bank account. These are circulating. So there's no reason why you, I, or anybody listening can't dip into that well. The only thing stopping us from seeing the opportunities are our own blinders. The blinders that when we look out through life, we're looking not so much through our eyes, but through the filters of beliefs that are over our eyes. We're looking at reality and seeing our version of it. We're not seeing the reality that's available to Donald Trump or Richard Branson or some of the other names you might mention. What we're seeing is reality based on our belief system, our mindset, our paradigm, our past experiences, what we believe is possible. We want to shake that loose. You shake it loose by listening to podcasts like this one, by reading books like Attract Money Now, by exploring your own beliefs, either with yourself or with a coach. But the more you can break free of the inner limitations, the more the outer abundance will show up.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you were talking about those mechanical steps, and I got you off on this tangent. I just want to make sure we cover those.
Right. All of this is part of the pie here. We want to enjoy this. The 7 steps in the book, Attract Money Now, are long and lengthy, but easy to implement once you understand them. But let me look at one other one. There's something called prosperous purchasing. It's a step in Attract Money Now, prosperous purchasing. So what's that? What it means is when you have the desire for a product or service and you have the money to get it, you must get it. You must buy it. Now, why? Because there's a psychology around money. There's a psychology around self-worth. If you've got the money in front of you and you have the desire for this product or service in front of you and you don't buy it, you are reinforcing lack, limitation, scarcity, and a belief that there isn't enough now and there won't be enough in the future.
So you're saying buy everything?
No, I'm not saying buy everything. I'm saying buy in the moment when you are inspired, you're truly, authentically, passionately attracted for a product or service that's right in front of you, and you have the means to get it. That's when you want to buy it. Because when you do, you're sending the more powerful message. I live in an abundant universe. I have enough. There is enough. More is coming my way. Now, obviously, you're not going to go and buy everything because you don't want everything. I don't want everything. I'm a big consumer. There's lots of things I want, but I don't want everything. And I'm very particular about what I do want. But when I'm in the moment and the car is there or the book is there or the investment course is there or the trainer is there, and I feel like, yeah, that's a yes, I want to get that, and I have the funds to do it, because I'm not encouraging people to go in debt. I'm very conscious about saying, if you've got the money and you've got the desire, you need to do it because of the positive impact it makes on your life and your relationship to money. This is the psychology of money, maybe even the metaphysics of money. But not buying when you can do it and you want to do it is shooting yourself in the foot. You're reinforcing your own scarcity mindset. And if you want to create wealth, attract money, and be in the flow of infinite riches, you've got to go and make the statements and the movements that are in the right direction. Buy it.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So that's that view that the world is abundant.
And it is.
And that's very, very important. Okay.
It is. Well, there's trillions of dollars passing around, so it must be pretty abundant.
Yeah. It's just a matter of who's controlling them. So
nobody's actually controlling it. See, we want to look at all these kind of things. There's no one individual. In fact, I taught a course a while back in Vegas, and I remember telling people, do you realize that there is nobody preventing you legally from making more money? There's nobody. There's no entity. There's no organization. Surely the taxes are going to want their share. They're going to want part of their money, but they're not preventing you from making more money, earning more money, creating more money, attracting more money. The only person that's limiting that is you. And you're not doing it consciously, so I'm not telling people beat yourself up, don't feel guilty, don't feel bad. It's not your fault. But there are beliefs at work in the subconscious/unconscious mind that we want to clean up. That's the reason that I'm doing all my work these days. That's the reason for Attract Money Now. That's the reason I even agree to do conversations like this. They're to clear the air for people. I am really intending that everybody listening right now really grasps these deeper concepts and realize money's good. You're worthy. We live in a prosperous universe. There aren't any limits out there stopping you. They're all inside. And the more we dissolve those, the more we taste the trillions that are going by.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Okay. Anything else on mechanics, Joe?
Well, those 7 steps, all of them are about mechanics. But let me talk about one other one that people are resistant to. I know they've heard it before. This is the idea of giving. And some religious cultures call it tithing. I think it's really important that you give, the rule of thumb is 10% of whatever's coming into your life, and to spread it back out, to circulate it to the universe. Now, when I say this, I'm very specific about how to do it. I never tell people just automatically give it to a church or a minister because they told you to tithe. Instead, I say, ask yourself, where did you get inspiration in the past week or so? Where were you spiritually nourished in the past week or so? That's where you want to give your 10%. And that could be to a waitress. That could be to a bus driver or a cab driver. That could be to an employee. That could be to a family member. That could be to an author, a teacher. It can be to anybody. And what you're doing there is paying attention to where are you getting the stimulation for growth in your life, and you want to reward it. You want to acknowledge it, and you give part of your income to it, partly because this is like traditional psychology, the behavioral kind, where you're reinforcing it so you'll get more of it. The more that you can give, the more that you will receive. In my book, Attract Money Now, we talk a little bit about the window that's created in your life to receive is made bigger by how much you give. So if you only give a tiny little bit and you let it squeak out, that's how much you've opened your window to receive. You've barely allowed any air to come in. And so this is very symbolic. This is very psychological. It's probably even metaphysical. But I can go back, and I've read a lot of the biographies, like the first John Rockefeller. He would give away dimes. And people would say, yeah, of course he gave away dimes back when dimes were worth $10. But he gave them away because he was rich. No, he gave them away when he didn't have money, and as he gave away, he was able to give more. All the ones that I've ever studied, all the very wealthy people, when we talk about creating wealth, these are the big guys that are bringing in multi-millions and billions. They give. They give really big, they give persistently, they give predictably, they just keep giving. And it's one of the secrets to attracting more money. I know I was resistant to this, my goodness, when I was in poverty. And people were saying things like, oh, you have to give away some of your money. I didn't want to give away anything. I was desperate. But I had to learn that I was creating a bond of trust in me and with the universe, so to speak, so that I can allow more to come into my life. As long as I held on to the little bit I had, that's all I had, little to nothing. So it's another one of the mechanics. You have to give.
Any more recommendations on giving or how you give or, how much you should give? I mean, there's the old law of tithing and so forth.
Yeah, the law of tithing as a general principle says give 10% of your gross. I say you have to balance that with what's working in your life. I don't want people to go into a psychological trauma thinking, oh, I can't give away 10%. Well, maybe you can only give away 3% or 5% or 6% or somewhere in there, working towards the 10%. And after that, start working to give away even more. But find where the comfort zone is and then stretch it a little bit. You want to stretch out of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is keeping you comfortable, but it's also keeping you at a level of wealth right now that feels comfortable. You want to keep reaching for more. And one way to do that is to give more.
Very good advice. Yeah, excellent. Okay, Joe, what other areas are there of this whole money issue? And maybe you want to broaden the discussion a little bit now and, just touch on anything else as we wrap up.
Sure. Well, one of the other points in the Attract Money Now is to think like an entrepreneur. And this is a big one, and I'm sure you already do this, but I know I didn't. When I was struggling, I was not thinking like an entrepreneur. I was thinking in a very singular way. I was thinking money could only come to me from a job. Or when I decided that I wanted to be a writer, money could only come to me from my writing. Well, that's very limited thinking. That's very tunnel vision thinking. An entrepreneur looks for opportunities. I've learned to think like an entrepreneur, and I learned it by reading books by entrepreneurs, reading about entrepreneurship, reading about biographies of famous business people, and learning to see differently. So if I can train myself to be an entrepreneur, anybody can do it. And one tip right here, and this is really a $1 million idea, and it could be a multi-million-dollar idea. And Donnie Deutsch, when he had his famous show, The Big Idea on TV, one of the highlights of my life was being a guest on that show. He used to talk about one of the great things you can do is listen for complaints. Listen for complaints from yourself or other people, because what they're complaining about could be a product or service. If you resolve their complaint, when somebody says, oh, I don't want to stand in line, and you figure out some sort of drive-through service or an instant delivery service, you've just solved their complaint and you just created a new business. So one of the big tips is listen for complaints. Whenever you complain about something, ask yourself, can I solve this? Is there a way to remedy it? Because if you're complaining about it, probably a lot of other people are too, and you've just solved the problem and you just created a business. Same thing if you're going to a store, a restaurant, I don't know, clothing place, and you're standing there and you're hearing people complaining. Why don't they come out with this fashion? Or why don't they come out with this size? Or why don't they come out with this or that? Those are all opportunities. An entrepreneur will turn on the radar in their brain and they'll be alert. I see opportunities every single day now. I can't even turn it off. And when I talk to people, within 20 minutes of talking to somebody, I can hear the opportunity that they're not hearing within themselves. And sometimes it's because they have an experience, they have education, they have a background that they can turn into a product or service, but they haven't realized it. So I'm encouraging everybody, think like an entrepreneur. Look for the ideas you can turn into businesses, because you can create great wealth that way. And you don't have to do just one, which means you can create multiple streams of income, which is a wonderful place to be in life because, well, multiple streams of income. That says it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, where can people find you?
My main website is my name, www.joevitale.com, VITALE.com. JoeVitale.com, or of course they can just go get the book, Attract Money Now, at attractmoneynow.com. I'm all over the internet. I have podcasts, I've got video casts, my books are on Amazon, my music's on CD Baby and iTunes, but the portal to everything is JoeVitale.com.
What's behind the Mr. Fire name, by the way? I can't remember that from years ago, but I remember you used that.
I do. I had a girlfriend decades ago who started calling me Mr. Fire, and I said, "Why are you calling me that?" And she said, "Every time I get around you, or every time I see you with somebody else, you ignite a fire under their butt to go for their dreams." And I thought, wow, what a cool nickname. And when I put up my first site back in the 1990s, I called it MrFire.com, MrFire.com, because it just seemed fitting. So the moniker has held on all these decades.
Yeah, fantastic. Joe Vitale, thank you so much for joining us. Very insightful and some stuff we can really use today. So that's what I like. Actionable advice. Any closing thought you want to share?
Go for your dreams. I have found that your passion is the indicator to where your wealth is, where your health is, where your happiness is. Tune in to your passion. What is it that you really love to do or long to do or would do if you were just independently wealthy, but you've been putting it off? Follow that. That is the secret. That is the key. That is the roadmap to your success.
Fantastic. Joe Vitale, thanks for joining us. Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.